Dear students, welcome to the MOOC on India's foreign policy in a globalizing world. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the 1962 war between India and China. Main objectives of this lesson are to understand the relations between India and China before the 1962 war, to know the factors that led to a war between India and China, to learn about the Panchashila agreement between India and China, to know how the 1962 war led to hostility between India and China. We begin with the first part of the lesson, in which we will discuss about India and China relations before their independence and after their independence. India and China are the two largest nations of Asia, accounting for a significant portion of the area and the population of the continent. India gained independence from British rule in 1947, whereas China achieved its independence in 1949. China, on the other hand, was never entirely subjugated under a single imperial authority, but found itself entangled with several powers, including Japan and Great Britain. The former engaged in partial political annexations of some of China's territories, while the latter subjected China to economic treaties. Post 1911, a civil war erupted within the nation, with the Kuomintang led by Chiang Kai-shek coming to power and the Chinese communists attempting to overthrow that power through force. Finally, after several tribulations, the communists led by Mao Zedong came to power in China in 1949 and declared the country as a communist and authoritarian nation with absolute domination by the Chinese Communist Party. India and China relations before their independence. Prior to independence, India and China had normal relations. After World War II, two powers attempted to divide the world into two blocks, capitalist bloc and communist bloc. The US and the USSR gained power with different ideologies. At this juncture, Communist China became independent and sought to strengthen its influence in the world, particularly in Asia. Consequently, it was keen on expanding its territory. As for Article 141 of China's constitution, it was required to protect the interest of its people in other countries. In other words, China set plans for developing its influence in other countries. Let us discuss about India-China relations after their independence. India, being a non-aligned country, could not visualize the danger from China. Nehru opined that by being non-aligned, no one would attack India. With this impression, he did not pay much attention towards strengthening India's defense establishment. India was the only country in the region which supported Chinese entry into the United Nations. The People's Republic of China was excluded from the UN framework until 1971. The legitimate seat of China was occupied by nationalist government backed by the US for over 2 decades. India, since its entry into the United Nations, had consistently supporting the Chinese cause for membership in the world body. As of 1st April 1950, India under the then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was the first non-socialist bloc nation to recognize the new communist government as the legitimate government of China and establish diplomatic relations with it. India realized that it needed to have its focus on economic development. This made it essential for India to develop peaceful relations with China. Furthermore, India witnessed a division of the British Indian Army of 0.5 million between India and Pakistan. Also, the confrontation with Pakistan over the Kashmir region dispute left very little room for India to engage with any other nation with hostility. In contrast to the downsizing of the Indian army, the Chinese army had a 2.3 million strong force which was well trained, well equipped by the Americans. as well as the Soviets. Indian Prime Minister Nehru took steps to foster positive relations between China and India. This was the era of the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union, which divided the Asian region into two power blocs, with countries aligning themselves with either bloc. India had declared its neutrality with the adoption of the principles of non-alignment, which led Pakistan to draw closer to the United States camp in response. China was supported by the Soviet Union as a fellow communist nation. India strongly supported decolonization and extended its support for Cambodian and Laotian independence from French rule at the sidelines of the Geneva Conference. This irked the United States considerably, and the consequent arming of Pakistan led to a thaw in India resolving its disputes with the farmer over Kashmir. This made India especially vigilant of maintaining a positive relationship with China to prevent any other border miscalculations. I hope you understood about India and China relations before their independence and after their independence. We will discuss about India's stand on Tibet and the Sino-Indian dispute over territory in the next video. Thank you.